In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this backpack from all stone tools. Started off by gathering calabashes from my calabash tree. Crescentia courgette is the scientific name, and it is a wooden skinned fruit with a soft pulpy interior. I use it for all sorts of different projects. So I started off by scoring the lines that I ended up cutting so that I could make sure that they were really straight, and after scoring it, I moved on to cutting it with this totally sweet stone knife that I made out of locally sourced stone. This is really, really tough stone. I didn't have to sharpen this knife at all during the whole manufacture, and each of these cuts probably only took me about 5 minutes. So after making my cuts, I just twisted the two parts to make sure that it was fully loosened and then pried them apart. So here you can see the fruit pulp. It's got a seed that can be roasted and made into a coffee-like drink. It can be used as a really effective dye, and medicinally it's used as a purgative. Here I'm using a piece of bamboo to scrape all of the fruit pulp off of the walls. If you don't remove all of the fruit pulp, it ends up staining the interior of the calabash. Here's what it looks like totally clean. So this is the upper portion of the main chamber of the backpack. I wanted a taller or a longer, larger piece for the backpack, so I ended up cutting this piece out from the middle and attaching it to the lower part. I got a plate out of the bottom section, and the top of the backpack was from the top part of this calabash. You can see the stain on my shorts there, and that is from the fruit pulp. Ends up being dark brown, starts off as that light brown that you can see in this shot here. So once I got the two cut, I started to perfect the fit. I just put them together and started to remove material in the places where it needed to be removed using this simple flake tool. And it worked really well. And there's my finished fit. So once I got them fit, I drilled holes in each of the two calabashes so that I could string cordage between the two and attach them together. I made this drill bit out of a piece of stone that I found. I don't even remember where I found the stone at. But yeah, I ended up sharpening it once during manufacture, but it worked really well. Each of the holes only took 30 seconds to a minute to drill, and I got some good hand drill practice. So next, I gathered some bamboo for the frame of the backpack. Here you can see me chopping down the bamboo with my stone axe. I've read before that stone axes only dent the wood, but you can see here that it clearly cuts the wood pretty effectively. Each of these cuts took me about 5 minutes to make, and I finished it off by just breaking the bamboo down. Once I got the two pieces broken off, I removed each of the branches, and then I cut it down into a manageable piece. And then I took that manageable piece up to the house so that I could measure it against the calabashes to make sure it was the right size that I wanted. And then I cut the two different lengths out of two different pieces of the bamboo. Here you can see the reason why this project took me a lot longer than I expected, and filming it was an even longer project for the same reason. Gotta love your kids, unless you really value free time. Hey, who wants some fruit? So next I split the pieces of bamboo. I started off the split with the piece of the greenstone axe, and then I used this piece of teak to finish the split. When you're splitting wood with wood, you just have to have a piece of wood that's denser than the piece that you're splitting. And as you can see, it worked really, really well. So after splitting the pieces down and cutting them to size, I fire cured them, and that was to harden the bamboo and to discourage insects from chewing it all up. The strength of the backpack, or the frame of the backpack I should say, really depended on how clean the joinery was. So I took my time to make sure these pieces fit together and couldn't move around at all. If there's any room to wiggle in this backpack frame, then eventually through use it would just slowly work its way apart. And so I wanted to make sure that this thing would be strong and long lasting. So I took my time and made a nice clean join. So next I gathered up my raw material for making cordage. This is Sansevieria trifasciata. It's also known as snake grass or snake plant. It's a very common house plant, and it's also a very common invasive on roadsides throughout the tropics. It can be scraped to remove the pulp from the fibers, but you lose some of the fibers, so I wanted to be able to get more fibers from each piece, and also I wanted the pulp on there so that the straps would be softer on my shoulders. So here you can see me binding the pieces together for the frame. Instead of making reverse wrap, I just used the raw cordage by itself. When you make the reverse wrap, it's rounded, and it doesn't grip the wood as well as just the material if it's flat. So I just used the material by itself so that it would sit flat against the two pieces of wood, and I got a stronger fit that way. And here's what it looked like completed. So next I gathered up this cat's claw vine, which is Dolichondra unguis. It's the scientific name. And this is a really awesome basket material. It is really flexible. It doesn't shrink much at all, so it can be used green. You can get it in really long lengths, and it's very, very strong. This piece that I'm pulling out of the tree here is skinnier than my finger, and as you can see here, it is very strong. I swung on this thing for 20 minutes or so, and I had to climb the tree and cut it down. So there's my material all gathered, and next I gathered some neem leaves, which is Azadirachta indica. And this is a really, really awesome insecticidal plant. So what I did was took the leaves and put them in water to make a neem bath. Made that bath, and I cut my basket material into more usable lengths and then soaked it as well as the bamboo in the neem bath for about 48 hours to further discourage any bugs from moving in. To make my basket material go a little bit further, I split it into half pieces to weave with. Here you can see me weaving the backrest. This is the part that rests on my hips and lower back. And as you can see, I have a folded piece of the cat's claw vine in the middle so that I had more spokes to weave through, and that just made it much stronger. If I didn't have those pieces in the middle, this backrest part would be a lot more flexible and wouldn't be as effective at keeping the frame from rubbing up against my hips and lower back. So this is the part for my lower back, and then this part here is the part for my upper back. And once it dried out, the basket material only added a negligible amount of weight to the backpack. So next I made a quiver style basket. If I'm carrying arrows on a survival trip, I don't want to have to swallow up all that room to have two long arrows inside the backpack, so I made this quiver basket here for that. And also I made it so it could be detachable, so when I get to where I'm going I can detach it and carry my arrows around with it. So here you can see me making some cordage by doing the leg roll method, which is a very effective way to remove any unwanted leg hairs. There was a lot of cordage material made for this project. Here you can see a massive bundle in my hand, which I used to make a net bag to encircle the calabashes for the backpack. That gave me extra contact points to tie this on to the backpack frame, and also it's just a convenient way to be able to stick things onto the outside of the backpack that I'm gathering. So this is Eugenia monticola. It's also known as Bunchberry, and I cut some pieces of wood off of this to attach the straps onto the backpack. This is a really, really dense wood, super flexible. I use it to make bows with and spears with as well. It's a very strong wood, long lasting. And you can see me cutting it here to a small length. And then once I had it cut to length, I removed the bark. We have wood boring beetles here, and what they do is they munch on the inner bark and the wood layer that's immediately underneath the inner bark. So I removed this bark to discourage insects from munching up these pieces here. So I cut it into two different lengths for the straps, And once I cut it to lengths, I carved a groove in to attach some cordage to tie down the strap material. Here you can see my sandstone grinding stone, and I just use this for smoothing the ends so that they look nice and pretty. And then here you see a small piece of snake grass cordage that I made. And this is just, like I said, to hold down the strap material while I worked on the flat braid for the straps. So here you can see me making the flat braid for the straps. And it's just a simple flat braid. I used 8 strands here, and you just start on the right hand side and you weave over and under going right to left, and when you get to the left side you just wrap the piece over the strap on the left and then start on the right again. Continue on your way. So here you can see me doing my first attachment. I attached these pieces, I attached the backpack onto the net bag, and then you'll see in a second I lashed it down with a larger piece of snake grass cordage. And I used it maybe 3 or 4 times to see what parts had the most strain, and then redid the lashing. And here you can see me putting on the Quiver pack. This was a super fun project. I enjoyed every bit of it. It took me a while, but it was really fun. So here you can see me putting the backpack on. Instead of permanently affixing the straps to the backpack, I wanted to make it adjustable so that if somebody else were to use it, which that's just not happening, but if it were to happen, this is totally adjustable. Just sliding these rings of cordage onto each strap and then putting it on the 2 nubs on the bottom. I made the straps extra long so that I could attach it on easier, but it ended up being perfect for having a belt loop on the backpack, which helps take a lot of the strain off of my shoulders. Super fun project. It's a very lightweight backpack. It's waterproof on the inside of the calabashes. It's got a ton of space, and it looks totally sweet.